Welcome back to Love, Life, and Legacy, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate these hypersexualized times. And I'm standing here, out of breath after running up a very small hill. Not because it was incredibly difficult, but because I've been eating so much here in Korea, and I am officially fat. But don't worry, I will overcome. I'm looking out into the Cheonggyeong Lake. It's after all of these events, I actually see my family walking towards me. It is the kingdom of heaven. We've had an amazing time here. And for today's episode, I wanted to highlight a talk that Benjy gave while we were here. We spoke to the Ring Next Spring crowd, which is a group of people that are considering going to next year's blessing. And Benjy gave a powerful talk. It's a talk that he was requested to give because it was so popular during the Blue Dragon pilgrimage last year. So if you missed it, or even if you heard it, I'm sure you're going to love it. So let's listen to Benjy. He's talking to people to help them to figure out whether they are in fact ready to get blessed. And it's even if you are blessed, you should listen to it to be like, is this still me? So anyway, my son is hugging me now, so I will leave you. But please enjoy this Benjy lecture called Why Not the Blessing?
I have some questions for you, all right? I need to understand you a little bit. I know a lot of you, maybe most of you, but first question I need to ask you is, we're here at the Ring Next Spring, right? How many of you, all right, this is just, I want an honest answer, an honest, sincere answer. How many of you want to get blessed? How many of you, raise your hand, who is clear that you want to get blessed next year, 2026? Okay? So these are the Ring Next Spring people. Do I have your word? Anyone else want to raise your hand? Put your name in a hat. Anybody else? You're going to be a bummer next summer instead? Now, who here is not sure if you want to get blessed? Thank you. Thanks for your honesty. All right. That's helpful to know. So, I'll talk about a bit. I originally called this title of this talk, How to Get Blessed Next Year, with God and Without Fear. It rhymes. But I thought that's a silly, corny, cheesy title. So instead, we call it this. After talking with some of you over the last few days, we're going to call it this. Why not 2016? 2026. Why not? Why not? I'm not here to tell you guys, we're not here to tell you that you should or shouldn't do anything, right? But it's important that if you are committed to the blessing, which most of you did raise your hand, right? And it's okay if you're not. Several of you did commit to wanting to get blessed rather soon. So if you have a vision for your life, and let me ask you this, do you want an ordinary blessing that's boring and you fight a lot and you argue a lot and you can't get over your differences, so you just have a lot of conflict and you question this blessing altogether every day of your life? Is that what you want? Or do you want a blessing that is far more fulfilling and thriving and radiant than every other couple or blessing you've ever seen before? Which one do you want? Okay, so you want to get blessed, but you don't just want to get blessed. Is that right? So if that's the case, and I have your word that you want to get blessed, what we're trying to help you do is get blessed with integrity, which means your desires for your life, your desires for your blessing, and your current reality, the reality that you are every day, not when you're in a workshop, not the 2-week high after workshop, but when you're at home, when you're alone, when you're with your family, when you're with your parents, when you're stressed out of your mind because of school and because of work, that person, we want to allow that person to have the integrity and the honesty and the courage to live in alignment with the person that you want to be inside your blessing. Does that make sense? And that's the version of you that we're here to help you develop. Is that fair enough? So when I ask you why not 2016, I'll ask you this in the same. That's me. Same me. I put this picture here because I wanted to explain why I'm here and why I'm yelling at you. All right? So I have been doing magic supporting since 2011, which is
15.
Nope. 14, yes. Yeah, almost 15 years. 14 years that I've been doing matching supporting. It's a passion of mine I have. As soon as I was blessed in marriage, I became a matching support. That's how crazy I am, right? And I've had the privilege of going to Korea for many years to help these brothers and sisters, matched couples, go to the blessing and figure things out, right? And what I learned inside working with the Blessing Family Ministry for several years is that my calling personally in my personal life is I don't really care who you guys get matched to be honest. I don't really care when you guys get matched. What I personally care about is that you guys are getting matched and blessed with integrity, all right? And that you're facing your fears and that you're working on yourself and you are becoming somebody that is marriageable, that is worthy of a spouse and worthy of this blessing that true parents came here to give. Over the last 10 years, we have been doing this work of helping people to have sexual integrity and to live with heavenly sexuality in their lives. And we have extended our team. This was taken a few days ago here in Korea to several other fine chapter leaders around the world, right? So this is the work we do. We have this awesome workshop that we do in different parts of the world. And our mission, if you were to state it in one sentence, is we help people be ready for marriage. We help people be ready for marriage. And so when I ask you this question, why not 2026? Give me some answers. Anybody?
Too much work.
Too much work to get to what? It's too much work.
I worked like 120 hours. How do I find time?
So finding somebody?
Finding time to find somebody.
Finding time to find someone is too much work. Okay. Anything else? Why not? You need to have a job before then. Any identify reasons? Why not? Got it. Thank you. Undeserving of what? The blessing. Okay. Thank you. Where else? Needing to heal from past. Yeah. Thank you. So this is a concept that I have been teaching for many years. It's not a rule book. Let me be clear. It's a helpful framework that many people have found helpful, which is why I talked about it. All right. And it's just the purpose of this framework is to help you guys understand the priority if the goal, right, is to receive the blessing that we're talking about today. Is that clear? So I'm going to talk about these one by one, and then I'm going to go into one of them more deeply. You guys okay? I'm sweating. It's hot. You guys okay? All right. So God and spirituality, this is foundational, right? Because we just had witnessed a massive mass wedding a few hours ago. And on the surface, it's kind of weird, a little bit. And marriage, the blessing itself, if you don't have an understanding of God and spirituality, it kind of is on the external surface level, seems like every other marriage, right? You get together, you stay together, you have fight, you conflict, maybe you split up, you have some kids on the surface. But if you have a clear understanding of God and spirituality, the blessing of itself it makes more sense. Does that make sense? It's kind of like a natural conclusion. It's like, oh, I understand God's heart. I understand spirit world. And on that foundation, guess what? Understanding true parents and the blessing becomes a lot easier. This is what I've observed when talking with people is that people that do not, brothers and sisters who do not understand God and have a personal relationship with God and spirit world, it's very hard to understand true parents because nothing really makes sense. Does that make sense? And the blessing to the same extent makes more sense on that foundation. Some people, it's easier to understand God through having experience with true parents, right? Sometimes people come to events like these and they see mother and they see all the brothers and sisters, they witness the blessing and they feel God deeply in those moments, you know? Okay, so this is foundational stuff. And then we have this concept that we're here to talk about, which is the idea of having no shadows. Ooh, how do you guys feel when I put that up there? No shadows. Past. What does that think? What does that make you feel? Scary? Anyone else? What is no shadows? So if you have shadows in your relationship, this happens sometimes, right? In our own blessed families is when people bring secrets, people bring fear, people bring shadows, people bring things into the relationship that they haven't discussed yet as a couple, feeling that maybe if I just hide it and squash it down and put it on the rug, it'll disappear and it dissipates and I won't have to bring it up. Do you guys know anybody that has been in that kind of relationship? And inevitably something comes up and something creeps up in the relationship. Yeah. And then we talk about teen unity. Teen unity is the conversation, it's a discussion with your parents, with your matching supporter, with the people in your lives, right? And as you can see, as we go up this ladder, we have things that get more specific and narrow. Finding someone, right? If you've noticed in traditional dating culture, it's kind of flipped on upside down. It's kind of an inverted pyramid, right? Where we have finding somebody, and then maybe I'll talk to my parents and see if they're on board with it, right? And then maybe if things come up, shadows in our lives, past mistakes, wounds that we're bringing to the relationship might come up, then we'll talk about it. But let's not even get into true parents and blessing, because that's all false and a sham, and we don't believe in that stuff. And then we get to the actual matching process of understanding and finding someone, yeah, through the matching process. And then, of course, we got the blessing. But you might have noticed in our movement, sometimes it can be flipped, where people are like, how can I get blessed as soon as possible, right? And then find somebody as soon as possible to get to the blessing, right? And talk to my parents and have all these things and disagreements and dissonance and discord in our relationship that's now coming out at the very, very end, right before we're blessed. And then, oh, wow, interesting. One of the people in that relationship is struggling with pornography, masturbation, not having sexual integrity, sexual fantasy, past mistakes that are kind of, they're holding on to, right? Perhaps you're holding on to things. It's like, okay, well, we don't really know what the blessing of true parents are, so let's try to figure that out, get all of our blessing education out of the way, right? Have you guys seen this kind of thing? You know what I'm talking about? So you understand this is not a rule book. It's not like you have to do everything like this. It's just to help understand that focusing on the bottom half of the pyramid makes these things infinitely easier to do. So it focuses your priority and your attention on things that matter, right? If you understand God, true parents make sense, right? If you have no shadows, guys, this is a secret that people don't realize. If you have no shadows, you're completely open, clean canvas, clean conscience, and you're looking for a spouse, finding somebody is a lot easier. You know that? Why? You feel clear. You don't feel like you have to hide. You can be yourself when you're talking with somebody. And you're able to sift through a lot of the baggage and nonsense and inner demon and chatter that's going on in your mind that you previously would have maybe felt like, oh yeah, this is really important. But now, because I'm very clear about my faith, I'm very clear about who I am, I'm very clear about my identity, I know exactly what I feel like I need in my life. And you can find somebody that shares those similar values, and it's a lot easier. So I'm going to go into this one right now, but before we do that, we're going to be talking about those shadows, and I'm going to have you guys discuss. So you can move around. You guys already in groups? Is that right? Our brothers and sisters separate together. So let's do this one for, let's give it 5 minutes, right? Do you have any music tunes? So given this information you've received so far, what is one area you want to work on to prepare for the blessing?
Since you only have 5 minutes, maybe pair share about someone, one of your teammates, someone next to you.
All right. We got a special treat for you guys. A little birdie named God just told me that one of you has a very similar, one of you has very similar testimony to the idea that we're talking about here today. So I'm going to welcome up Yasu. You share a little story for us, all right?
So it was the first time I saw that pyramid, and I was kind of reflecting on my own blessing journey. I was really surprised how actually it went exactly the way that was. Started off by like, hey dad, mom, I want you to find someone, so let's set a condition. Felt like for me, spirituality, having good communication with my parents as my representatives of heavenly parent was very important, that they are able to find or guide me in that. And then the condition we decided was true parents' words, and reading true parents' words to understand the value and the significance of the blessing. And then when I was going through that, then of course the no shadows part. Understanding the value of the blessing, I wanted to, again, also receiving education about what the blessing means, like to become the right person, not looking for the right person, but to become one. And I was, just struggling with hiding some things from my parents from the past. And so my conscience was responding to the words of the two parents' words. And like, I need to tell them about some of the things that I was hiding, such as like pornography, addiction, as well as just some things that I stole something from a store when we were out shopping. And it was kind of like a confession. But after doing so, I felt much more free, relieved, and that was not bothering me anymore or weighing in my conscience. And I'm already blessed. And I had a rule for myself where when I'm talking to this person I'm considering as a match, on day 3, I just laid it out. Everything that I confessed to my parents. And in that way, in that sense, I was also felt like I was free. And of course, it put a lot of pressure on her, because now she understands who I really am and what I'm bringing into this marriage if I'm still stuck on some of those things. But for me, I was just able to be myself and kind of get over the feeling of like, ooh, I have to be someone else and look really in front of her. And so, yeah, just having those shadows is really liberating, but also it's very helpful for the other person to know.
So what does mother say about no shadows? Your mother shared, this path is the only way to repay some of your debts to your parents. Isn't that right? How can we beautifully pass down this tradition for eternity? Everything depends on you. We can't allow any unnecessary twig in our culture. It must have no shadow. It must be transparent. You must become citizens of that type of childhood. Do you understand? Do you understand? Which words stuck out to you the most here? Anything? What sticks out to me is pass down this tradition for eternity. How is anything passed down eternally? Kids, Benjy, lineage. In other words, what? The blessing. Yeah, that's what she's talking about here. We cannot allow any unnecessary twig in our culture. It must have no shadow. It must be transparent. She also showed this. If every one of us lives like a brightly shining lamp, no shadow will be cast. No places of darkness will be created. If we only receive things, they become our debts. Please repay your debts by living a life of true love, of living for others, spreading the light throughout the world, and wiping away the tears of those less fortunate. Any words here stick out to you? Anything? Those less fortunate. Yeah, mother often does talk about helping people and serving people less fortunate. For me, it's the date. You guys know what this date is? October 27, 2012. This was very, very, very soon after Chufal had passed away. So the message is clear. Bring God into your matching blessing through living without shadows. If you're wondering how to let God work in your matching, how to let go and let God, how to invite the presence of God as a parent into your matching process, into your blessing, it starts by living as your mother and your father have been constantly, endlessly talking about, right? This is not an organizational concept of high noon. This is a concept that father and mother have been talking about. Your mother's been talking about this idea of living as pure water. And that's how God will work in your matching, your blessing. So I'm going to be talking about myself a bit. And the reason I'm doing this, so I was praying about how I should deliver this concept of no shadows and how to help you guys understand the significance of this concept. And when I was praying about it, I felt God. I don't hear God. Does anyone hear God? You hear God? Anybody else? I feel God. Something inside of me. Sometimes I wish I could hear God, but I just feel it. I feel God, and God said, you have to lead by example. Don't just speak words. You have to lead by example. So I'm going to be talking about these 4 phases of my life. All right? You with me? We have the enjoyment phase. We're going to go into all of these. We have the shadow phase. We have our rebirth phase. And we have a blessing phase. Got you? So the enjoyment phase of my life looks like this. This is my brother, Sammy. He's over here somewhere. And this is my favorite photo from our childhood. Because I think this is the chaos that was in our house most of the time. And I define this period of my life like the Pokemon and Power Ranger phase, where my number one priority in my life was how do I get more Pokemon and Power Ranger in my life? Anybody? Anybody else? No? Pokemon, yes? Yes. Okay. Power Rangers? Oh, really? Oh, thank you. Good. That was all I cared about. And I call it my Pokemon phase because I didn't think about anything else. There's nothing else I cared about.
Hey, if you happen to be a single person that wants to prepare well for marriage, for the matching, for the blessing, then my friend, we actually have a program just for you. It's completely free. You can join the core program at highnoon.org. We're going to take you through the stages to figure out what does it mean to be a marriageable person? What does it mean to be ready? How do you actually prepare for marriage and the blessing? Check it out at highnoon.org. Join us in the program called Core. All right, see you there.
All right. And so the analogy that I'm painting here in this talk is that there is this big old mountain that we all have in our lives, right? It's the mountain of living a blessed life. It's a mountain of living a charmed life. It's a mountain of living a life of high noon, of sexual integrity. It's a mountain we all have to climb in life, whether we like it or not. Because deep in our hearts, we know that our conscience is most clear and we're the most happy and fulfilled and thriving when we are at the top of the mountain. We know it. And we often try to stay in the fields and just kind of watch it, especially when we're children. And at this stage of my life, it was just Pokemon Power Rangers playing in the fields. And I know that there's a mountain out there that I have to climb eventually. I know it's there. I'm intrigued by it, but I don't want to climb it yet. It sounds too daunting. And so that period, I think all of us can relate to a little bit, right? And then comes the shadow phase of my life. The shadow phase is defined by my teenage years. It's the hiding phase. It's the phase of my life where I literally had my head in the ground, right? This is the period of my life where my number one priority was to show face, was to look good, was to be cool. This is the phase of my life where I got into break dancing, right? Which is something a lot of people do because it's cool. For some people, it's skateboarding. For some people, it's, drinking, doing drugs, tattoos, that kind of stuff, whatever your thing is. But this was my way of showing face. It's like break dancing, that kind of thing. But it was the shadow phase mainly because I had no sexual integrity. And when I say that, I mean it because I felt like my sexual organ was to be used for something meaningful. It was to be used for having children, for my spouse. And I've been told this, right? In workshops, okay, we talked about the value of the holy place, that kind of thing, right? But when I was a teenager, I was fraught with so much dissonance and distraught in my heart because I lacked integrity. Because I wanted something and I knew that I wanted something, but I was weighed down by a porn and masturbation habit that caused so much shame to the point that I thought I was evil, actually. I believed that I was sinning and I believed that I was going to hell. That's how I felt because no one really talked about, right? Porn and masturbation or sexual fantasy. Nobody talked about this stuff to me. And so I felt like I was fallen. I felt like I was going to hell. And that's how my prayers to God were, right? When I would masturbate, I would say, God, I'm so sorry, I'm fallen. And this is how I believed my life was when I was a teenager. And I remember many times I couldn't even sleep because I would wake up in the middle of the night because I felt like I was just so evil. I was possessed, like I'm possessed by something. And so that mountain that I'm talking about started becoming darker and darker and covered by clouds and mist to the point where I couldn't even see where the mountain starts and where it ends. And I became less interested in the mountain. And this time of my life is also, interestingly, the time where I first felt God's love for the first time significantly in my life. It was also related to my pornography use. There was one time that my parents had found that I was watching pornography on our family computer. Anybody?
No, not me.
And then my dad confronted me about this. And we had an evening. He was like, Benjy, we need to talk. And if you have a Japanese dad, it's always something like that, right? So we used to talk, and I was like, oh God, I could feel my heart sink like this. It's like the feeling you get right before you drop on a roller coaster at the very top. I could feel my heart being like dropping. I was like, oh, like this. And so my father sat me down, and I knew what he was talking about. And he's like, you asked me, it's like, Benjy, did you watch porn? Right? And I said, yeah, right? Like, yes. And his response was, I think, the reason that I'm here with High Noon today, actually. Because he said, he explained to me his experience when he was a child, and he was caught. So my father is Japanese. He grew up in Japan. And he was explaining to me in this conversation, he said, Benjy, when I was a child in Japan, my parents found pornography that I hid in my bedroom, right? Like a magazine or something like that. And then he said, my father beat me. And he was explaining this to me. He said, my father beat me. And then he said, I'm not gonna hurt you, because this is my fault. That's a real father's heart. A true father would say that this is my fault that you engage in porn, you watch porn. Yeah, so that's the first time that I experienced true grace. I felt God's love in my life. And then what happened after that is that the top of the mountain started becoming more clear. I had a glimpse of hope, a glimpse of that there is some light at the end of this darkness. And so what happened is I started to be curious to understand God more. I had curiosity to understand what God's love is like. But the problem was I was still overwhelmed by shadows. Talking to my parents one time about my porn use didn't solve the addiction. It didn't solve it. And many times we like to think that, right? If I just do this one thing, if I just have this one conversation, I will be healed or fixed forever. But that was not my case. And so it was especially hard because I didn't want to bring it up again, right? Bring it up again. It's like, oh, I'm still struggling. So I was still overwhelmed by shadows. And that's when I really decided to get serious about my life of faith. And I had this opportunity to go to a gap year program when I was 16 years old. And that's when I made my next priority in my life, not Pokemon, not Power Rangers, not breakdancing and looking good, but what? Understanding God. Yeah? A Jew. Can anyone relate with this? Isn't it amazing that in just what seems like a few years, you can go from everything's Pokemon to everything's God? I know you guys, because I talk with a lot of people. It's so interesting. I have 3 children right now. And they're in this phase right now. Their number one thing is Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, actually. They love Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know. Yu-Gi-Oh's having a comeback. They love it. They're in Japan too right now. So they're going crazy at the card stores. And they're like, okay. So this period was the time where I made God, understand God, everything to me. What can I do to understand who God is? Who can I talk to? What conditions can I do? I'll do anything and everything to figure out who God is to me. And it was a time where I was still overwhelmed by the feeling of shame because of mistakes I made in the past, my ongoing relationship, porn and masturbation. And I knew in my heart that if I wanted to get to that top of the mountain, if I wanted to experience God fully, I had to let go of these shadows. And I didn't want to tell my parents. Those are the last people I want to tell, right? Which says something interesting, doesn't it? It usually means those are exactly the people I need to tell. Because there's a reason that I'm so afraid of it. And I noticed that. I was like, I really don't want to tell my parents. I think this is what I need to do. And so I decided to write them a letter because I was living in this gap year program. We weren't living in the same house. So I decided to write them a letter. And I started writing. I went to a room. I was writing. I just kept writing everything from life, from my struggles, from my current struggles. And it ended up being a 10-page report, 10 pages of a confession letter to my parents. And I folded it, I sealed it up in the envelope, I put the stamp on it, right? And I'm about to send it off to my parents. Can you imagine being a parent and receiving that? I was about to send it to my parents, and I stopped and I paused and I was like, I was like, I really don't want to do this because I'm scared of how my parents are going to react. I was scared that they're going to be disgusted in me, actually. I thought they're going to be grossed out by my actions and who I am. And so I paused, but then I remember thinking, because I'm smart, this is not for my parents. This is for me. I'm doing this for me because I need to liberate myself. It's not for my parents. So it doesn't matter what they think because this is for me. And so I sent it off and I was like, all right, parents, you can react however you want. I don't care because I need to do this. And after I did that, has anyone done that confession before to your parents? Anybody? Quite a few people. The feeling after doing that, Jakob, what's the feeling? I remember seeing you right after you sent an email to your parents. This was in Champio last year. Look at, he's here now. I remember he sent an email to his parents, and then he talked to me afterwards. I could see you. You're different, right? We were lighting up. So the feeling I had was like this. It's like light, like flying, floating. The feeling that you have after you have a really deep cry, some people cry a lot. It's like a feeling of lightheartedness, that kind of feeling. Let's go get some books. And that's the next stage that helped propel me to getting matched and blessed. Because from that moment on, guess what? I had no more shadows in my life. I felt like a clean canvas, like a white wall. I had nothing. There's nothing else I could have put in that letter. And so from then on, my whole matching preparation, if I could summarize it, it was just doing every condition and thing I could think of to experience God. At any time there's a tiny shadow, like a little dot, a little speck of dust on my clean canvas, I would immediately notice it. You guys see that one right there? There's one right here. It's like a little hole. I would see it and be like, erase, confess, liberated, back to high noon, right? And you get to this point where a lot of our participants in our high noon programs have said that the high noon living is actually quite addictive because as soon as you look 1 degree off, a little degree off, you see a shadow and you're like, oh, I gotta get my conscience clean again, right? Andy Pock comes to mind. He's that kind of guy. Yeah. So this experience in my experience in discovering God was seeing the light for the first time. It was not just seeing it, but I could see that there's a path that I could walk to this light, and it became exciting. I was excited for my journey. And there's a period of time I had no more problems with porn and masturbation. Yeah. No more. At this period of my life. And I prepared hell to receive the blessing because I created a very clear vision of the kind of man I want to be, the kind of blessing and family that I wanted to have. Right? And so that path became clearer and clearer for me. And that's when I decided to receive the blessing, to get blessed. So that's when we entered the blessing phase of my life, of creating a blessed family. Now the matching was interesting. So we had this opportunity to go to True Parents Matching. We did True Parents Matching back in the day. Anybody know that? Maybe your parents. So I went to one of the last matchings that True Parents did before father passed away. And when you go to True Parents Matching, there's a explicit understanding that True Father is going to match you, right? And that you go there with a heart of absolutely anybody. I accept everyone and anything. Even Father talked about things like you should be willing to get matched to the ugliest person in the world, to a broom, to a rock. You should have the heart to do whatever it takes, right? For the blessed family, for the blessing. And so I had that heart. And the reason people go to True Parents Matching is because I don't trust my parents. I don't trust myself, right? I definitely don't trust myself. I'm going to trust these people, this guy that has been doing it for decades and matched hundreds of thousands of people. He can do it, right? Little did we know that True Father asked us to choose our own match as soon as we got there, all right? And this is the first time he did it. So you can imagine there's a group of people going to this matching and how much everyone was freaking the heck out. Can you imagine? So this is me before the matching ceremony in the mindset of what? True Father's going to match me. True Mother's going to match me. And I'd say yes to anything. That was the heart I had. All right. This is us in the room when Father came in. Can you guys spot me? Anyone? Where am I? Somebody told me it was okay to wear a beige suit to the matching. Maybe I'm the reason that she probably made us choose our own match. She was like, I can't. That guy, he's just, I'm not gonna, all right. I'm deep in reflection. So what happens is that we sit down for about 5 minutes. Usually two parents take hours. You wait for hours for them to come and then they match very quickly. We wait for about 5 minutes and the two parents came immediately. And then they started to get some scolding. They made some people sing. And then your father started scolding some people because they were matched before by your father and they're here again. And he was like, I just matched you. What's going on? Why are you back here? I match you, I bless you, and then you break it, and then you come back. And he's like, you should match yourself, and then you never break your blessing. Funny, right? And then he was like slowly, like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. and then she's like, everyone stand up. Like, everyone stand up, split the room in half. Men go over here, women go in half. And he's like, go ahead, choose, like this. And he was still sitting, by the way, the whole time. He's like, all right, go ahead, choose. And slowly but surely, you could feel the energy in the room just go like this to just like that, all right? You could feel it. You could actually hear some of the women screaming. I remember it in my mind. What, you wouldn't scream? And you know you would. Come on, all right? And so it's just like, this is the actual photos from my matching. He's just like, all right, stand up, you guys, split the room. All right, now match yourselves. Like this, right? And so I counted 75 women that I'm looking at, right? And then he said, okay, choose someone. He doesn't give any guidance. There's nothing. And I'm waiting, right? And you're supposed to go one at a time. And do you guys want to hear the story? All right, just check it. We have some time, so I'll tell the story. But the ending, I promise, the ending is relevant to all of you. That's what I'm sharing. So, he's telling us one by one to go look at the sisters. Pick one. Go ahead. Like this. And so I was the second in line in this group, right? And so the first guy started looking around. Actually, let's back up. First of all, he asked the sisters to look. Can you believe that? He said, sisters, go to the brothers and choose somebody. And I mean, come on, sisters. None of them were like, oh, I'm going to take you. Proposal. No. They were stunned. They were just like this, frozen. You can imagine, right? Frozen. And then very quickly follows it. Brothers, you go, right? And so what we did was we started doing this lineup one by one where he brought all the sisters. And Chifather said to look at their faces. He said to look at everything. Look at everything. And so we started looking one by one. And then I was frozen like this because I was like, I can't do this. This is not what I signed up for. That's what's in my head. This is not, no. I'm here because I don't trust myself. That's why I'm here, right? But then I started having some really present moments. You can't think too much. You can't think too much in these moments, right? It's like gut feelings like, okay, True Father is asking us to choose our spouse. He's the same True Father that I put my eternal faith in. The same God, right? And so if this is what he wants, then I have to, that's what I signed up for. It is what I signed up for, right? To some degree. And then so I was just in my head. I didn't move. The guy next to me was like, he started going like this, like, hurry up. Because I was just standing there and the other guy went. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. That's all I was saying. I can't do this. I can't do this. And then True Father said one thing that really snapped me out of it, right? He said, just choose someone and God will support you. Like that. He said, choose someone and God will support you. And so when he said that, I understood what he was saying. He was saying that if you have the right heart and the right motivation and purity, importantly, then whatever you decide inside that context, God will support you, whatever it is. And so I was like, okay, I can do this. And so I started walking one by one, looking at the sisters, all the sisters. Very briefly, I promise. It wasn't weird. It wasn't like, 150 centimeters, nah. Japanese, nah. No. I looked at the face very briefly, like this, quickly. One, okay, walking around. And then at the very end, I closed my eyes and I was like, who really stuck out to me? Who's the one face that just like popped in my mind? there was a lot of sisters that were looking down. I remember that because they were really, really shocked and distraught. So they were looking down like this. And they had a hard time looking at the eyes of the brothers, right? And there was one sister that came to mind that was just looking around like this. With like a slight smile on her face, like this. Just looking around at all the brothers. And like she's having a good time or something. And I remembered that. And then I was like, Dad, that's a woman of faith. That's a woman of faith that I like. And so I went back around, and then you're supposed to go around and keep going around and around until you find someone. And then so I went one by one, and I got to her, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go around one more time. Just go. Like I'm not gonna propose right now. I'm gonna go around one more time. I got some time. But then I thought, oh, if I don't take her, someone else is gonna take her. And I put my hand out like this, right? And then she hesitated. She was like, oh, this. She doesn't know. No one knows what to do. And then she took my hand, thankfully, after some hesitation, I might add. She took my hand. And then we left the room together. We were the first couple in that matching group. First one. I'm proud of that. I was the first one to approach and get received. So our first conversation was, I looked at her badge because I didn't look at country language. I didn't look at any of that. I don't got time to look at that stuff. I'm not going to do it. So I looked at her back and was, oh, it's Japanese. Okay. My first thought was, oh, she's beautiful, actually. I was like, oh, she's beautiful. Because I didn't think about that either. You don't think about this stuff. When Father said choose a spouse, my very, very first reaction was, I'm going to choose the ugliest person here because that's what he told us to do. Right? Because I'm smart. But then I was like, well, then she's going to ask why I picked her. And then I was like, oh, that's dumb. That's stupid. So I feel like that's stupid. I forgot all about attractive. I was attractive. And so we left the room together. I was like, oh, she's beautiful. She's got such a pure face, right? And then I asked her in Japanese, the only Japanese I knew at the time. I said, I don't know Japanese. That was the first words that I spoke. Yeah. Okay. So why am I telling this story? Did I miss anything in the story? I don't know. I'm telling that story because the heart that true parents are asking us to have towards the blessing is the same heart of absolute pure heartedness. Not that we haven't made mistakes. My goodness, I just told you my whole shadow experience in my life. Not that we haven't made mistakes and really fallen on our face in life, but that we cleanse ourselves. We liberate ourselves through the help of community, brothers and sisters, our parents, experience God's love and grace. And on that foundation, we go into this matching with the heart of, I will do whatever's best. I will do whatever's best. And if you have that heart, then God will be there with you. God will support you. There we are. Right after the matching. This is outside the Cheongbuk, right outside the Cheongbuk, out there. Now, in this journey, I finally have a partner in this mountain, which is a wonderful feeling, right? You have a partner, somebody to keep you accountable, somebody to hold your hand, somebody to encourage you, celebrate with you when you're doing well, and somebody to pick you up when you fall flat on your face. That's the best thing to me about the blessing on a daily level, is that there's always somebody there by your side. Right, blessed people? There's always somebody there that is there. It's not the sex, which is great, but it's not the intimacy or affection that's the best. To me, it's just, there's always someone there. You don't have to reach out to them. You don't have to call them, right? It's someone that's always on the same journey as you, that's sharing the load and walking together hand in hand. And this is a period of life where we're learning how to fully love each other, which is a challenge. Can be a challenge. What I have learned in my 14 years of blessing that I will hold true in my heart for the rest of my life is that eventually I will have to accept my wife 100% when she's on her deathbed or I'm on my deathbed.
Hey, just a quick intermission to let you know that High Noon has a program just for single people that want to prepare well for marriage. So if you happen to be one of those single people that wants to be a stellar, fantastic, amazing, marriageable man or woman, then check out the core program, which you can find at highnoon.org. It is just for single folks like you who want to get ready for marriage and be ready for marriage. So join that at highnoon.org and we will see you in the core program.